My name is Joe Peroni, and this is the Rise Above Project. And today I want to talk about the difference between righteous anger and unrighteous anger. Now, I wanted to do this show today because it's been a very, very interesting week dealing with a lot of Trump supporters. And it really came to a head the other day when I went to Bible study at a church. And as you might think, I don't know why you would actually think this, but it's true. A lot of these people who go to church somehow are confusing Donald Trump with anything that is related to Christianity and Jesus. And so it makes for a very interesting time when I spend with these people, because one of the reasons why I go to these things is because I am not going to leave a church because they're not following the principles that Jesus taught. Because I feel like if I leave, the rats and the cockroaches take over, and so they need a dissenting voice. So I'm going to be there to say and to do the right thing as far as I can see it. So righteous anger is the moral response to the mistreatment of others. And unrighteous anger is the defensive and self-serving response when our ego, our beliefs, our social identity, or our in-group has been challenged. So we started off the group by asking if anybody felt that they had righteous or unrighteous anger. First person up said that they thought that another person had unrighteous anger. And they started off the sentence by saying there was this liberal nut job, quote unquote, that had unrighteous anger because he, as a Republican, felt that the liberals are saying that he's somehow fascist or leaning towards Nazi tendencies. And so he thought that that was unrighteous and that his anger was righteous in saying that because he had a moral response to this, and to where he felt that he was being mistreated because he was being lumped in a group with fascists and Nazis. So of course I had to speak up. And the first thing I said was, I'm going to speak for a bunch of liberal nut jobs now. And what I said was, I said, you might not be a fascist. That's true. You might not be a Nazi. That's true. Might be. But here's the thing, it's not a deal breaker for you. And it's not a deal breaker for millions upon millions of Trump supporters who love every word he says. And if you don't want to be thought of as a fascist, then stop following and supporting fascist policies. It's plain and simple. So I, of course, feel that my response is righteous because mine is a moral response to the mistreatment of other people. And how can I prove this? Well, again, we were in a church, so let's go over this a little bit. And again, you don't have to be a person who goes to church. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, I think most decent, caring, loving, compassionate people don't go to church. Most people who go to church right now are just like Donald Trump. And if they see Trump as a Christian, I got to ask the questions like, what's wrong with you? You're not following anything of Jesus's teachings. So let's talk about this. So what are the core tenets of Jesus? Again, if you're not into the Bible, don't worry about it. These would be the core teachings or the thoughts of any good, loving person. So number one, compassion for the poor and marginalized. Number two, wanting to care for the sick. 3, inclusivity and acceptance of people. 4, equity and justice. Which is interesting here because when you look at it, Donald Trump and his minions, and now his supporters do the same thing, they hate DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusivity. That's literally almost word for word of what Jesus was pushing. So you literally hate the exact words that Jesus pushed. You got a lot to think about here, okay? Because it's really odd that you're against these things. Also, Jesus talked about accountability of authorities. He talked about love and forgiveness. He talked about nonviolence and service to others. Let's take some of these. If we want to care about the sick, then why did they pass a bill that has the potential to throw 24 million people off of health care? Now, there's a couple of reasons here, but one of the main reasons why the Democrats walked away and the government is shut down right now is because they're fighting for the health care for 24 million people. So if you're a Trump and he supporter and he's your Lord and Savior, then why are you connecting it to Jesus, who said, take care of the sick, when you want to throw 24 million people off of health care? That doesn't make sense, right? Also, there's millions of people that they want to throw off of welfare, which includes, say, things like food stamps and food assistance or free lunches for children. So when Jesus says, take care of the poor, what do you hear as a Trump supporter? You're hearing, screw over the sick and screw over the poor? Because that's not anywhere in the Bible, number one, and that's not anywhere near a person who is decent or good. So again, I got to ask the question, like, what happened to you? It's really interesting because I went to catechism, right? I went to church with people way back when I was a kid and all this, again, back to my formative years. And a lot of these people who went to church with me, who went to catechism with me, I've got a friend that his father was a deacon of a church. What happened to all of you? All of a sudden, now you're agreeing with the exact opposite of Jesus's teachings. I just can't even understand how this is happening. There's a cult of personality where if you had anybody else to look up to, you're looking up to a person who could not care less about human beings. As I went into this Bible study, the first thing that really kind of set me off a little bit, or I would say set me off, but it made me feel something. Outside the church was a group of people, and they had a sign, and it said that they were trying to raise money for their mother who had stage 4 cancer, and they were selling. It looked like their own possessions, their clothing or whatever. This kind of stuff should not happen. Now, here's the funny thing. The guys in my church, most likely, they'll say the same thing as me, that it shouldn't happen. They don't like to see people in distress. They don't like to see homeless people get away from us. But that's not the way I look at it. The way I look at it is that there's 25 first world countries, give or take. And we're the only one that doesn't take care of its citizens in terms of health care. We don't have socialized medicine. We say it can't happen. We're the richest country in the world, and we have people outside churches selling their own clothing to raise money for cancer treatment. And by the way, they'll never get enough money for cancer treatment. Selling their clothes or selling a blouse or a shirt for $1 is not going to get them anywhere near the money that they need to take care of their mother. It's not going to happen. Why do we let this happen? Why do we have a political party that does this to humans? And then we have people that say that they're good people and they support this. How? You've got a lot to answer for. It's funny that I was the only one in my group who talked about it. The other ones just walked right by. It's like, oop, they just got in my way. I don't like these people in need. Doesn't make any sense. One of the things that these people can't seem to understand is that we're not actually moving into fascism. We're actually already there. And I could do a whole show on it, and I'm not going to do that right now. I'll just do a quick little thing because it's one of the things that I mentioned in the group with the guys. Because the guy gets all, oh, you can't attack me as being a fascist. Well, I don't think you know what fascism means. So let's go down some of the things. The signs of fascism or authoritarian tendencies. So one of them is media control. Is the media controlled by Trump and the Republicans right now? Well, they do control the licensing for TV and radio, and you've seen this. The head of the FCC basically said that. Like, if you don't do what we want you to do, we're going to get rid of your license. So they're getting rid of dissenting voices. This is happening. This is why when you want to look up certain information, it's not there. Right? This is stuff right out of George Orwell's 1984, where the media is going to lie to you. In the book 1984, they talk about the Ministry of Truth, which was really not that. It was the Ministry of Propaganda, which was the Ministry of Lies. Now, Donald Trump has been found and confirmed to have 30,000 lies in his first term. And he's already beating that now in terms of per day lies, because almost everything out of their mouth is a lie, such as Democrats want to give away health care to illegals. They're not eligible for it. Just Google it, look it up. It's just a fact. So I don't know why they keep saying it, and then you have these newscasters that don't shove those words back down their mouth, or at least challenge them, because they're afraid to lose their licensing. And this is the first time that we've had a fascist president or an authoritarian president who is threatening people in this way, and he threatens their livelihood if they don't agree with him or say something nice about him. Continuing with media control, he attacks the press all the time, and his lame brain cult followers just say, yeah, fake news. So whenever they disagree with something, or they hear something that they don't want to hear or makes them feel uncomfortable, they immediately jump up and go fake news. Well, you can't say that's Trump's fault completely, but he has a good way of doing that, where he doesn't take any personal responsibility for anything. And that's what happens when you're gifted $411 million from your father. You never had to do any real work. Also, that guy's had over 4,000 lawsuits in his life. So people don't want to fight back because it's millions of dollars, thousands of dollars to keep fighting against lawsuits. So he just sues everybody, and he gets chunks of money out of people because they can't really fight back. So they just try to give him a chunk of money. This is what happened when he sued YouTube. Okay, YouTube are a bunch of wusses also. So when you see he's building a ballroom and he says that it's not using taxpayer money, that's true. But they're all quote-unquote contributions from companies. They're not contributions, they're bribes. They're trying to get leniency. They're trying to get favor, such as don't tariff us, and stuff like make sure we still have our licenses okayed. So this is not what you think it is. Also, even recently, every time he gets a question that's difficult, that actually makes him want to answer a tough question, that deals with his lawlessness or something to that effect, he throws them out. And now they're only allowing press passes for those who agree with him. So now if you're kind of a person who's not paying attention to the news much, you have no idea what's going on because nobody's challenging him. And so you're not getting the real news anymore. So is that a sign of fascism? Absolutely, yes, that's Fascism 101. He's also using the Department of Justice to silence and intimidate his critics. So whenever you say something, he's going to have the Department of Justice ruin your life. Now, who do I blame here? Well, Trump, obviously, but I blame all of his supporters. Can not one of you stand up and say that this is wrong? Are you so much in your in-group that you just don't care? Because let me tell you something. When he talks about liberals being an enemy of the state, I'm a liberal. And when he talks about people saying negative things about him, I do that all the time. So I have family, I have friends. Which one of my family and friends is going to end up turning me in or not caring if something happens to me? Because this is where our government is going. Part of fascism is dehumanizing immigrants. Now, you could say if somebody's illegal, they need to be taken out of the country. No problem. if that's what you want to do. Actually, Obama did a better job of deporting people than Trump did. So what's the problem here? The problem is that ICE, they're not, first of all, they're wearing masks. Okay, Trump supporter, think about it for a second. Is this legal, and is this something that's really a good thing to happen when they're wearing masks and they could do whatever they want and they could be as vicious and as violent as they want? And do you think they're only taking immigrants or illegal immigrants? No, they're not. So they're not just taking illegals. That's number one. They don't have any due process. They're ripping people off the street. They're wearing masks. Okay, so are we dehumanizing people? Yes. Is this different from Nazi Germany? Not really. It hasn't got to that level yet, but it's getting there. How about no oversight committees? We're supposed to have checks and balances in our government. Do you see any of that? They're all in Trump's pocket. The Supreme Court is 6-3 Republicans. And they did that because they held back a vote on a Democrat when Obama was in office, and then we can continue from there. But it was a bunch of shady stuff, and you don't care because you just want to win your side. But you're not a billionaire, so you're not going to win anything. How about consolidating power, no checks and balances on the government anymore? All of these things will show to you that we're not sliding into fascism. We're here. We are here. This is fascism. It just depends on what level that we get to. So again, let me do a quick little review here. There's righteous anger and unrighteous anger. Righteous anger is the moral response to the mistreatment of others. That's what every good liberal has. We want to protect the marginalized. We want to protect people who are sick. We want to protect people as they get old and they can't do the things that they used to do. So of course they're not going to make the money they did. People need help. We want to protect people on welfare because most of them, of course, work full time and yet they still can't make ends meet. Do they need help? Absolutely they need help. There's a lot of people that need help in this country. What would Jesus do or say? He would be on that side of protecting people. Unrighteous anger is the defensive and self-serving response when your own ego and beliefs and your in-group gets challenged. And this is why Trumps, they just yell out Trump derangement syndrome. They yell out fake news because they don't know what a fact is and they can't wrestle with the thought of, okay, I'm throwing people off of their health care. Why is this good? Why am I happy about this? I'm making laws and I'm supporting someone who hates gay people. Okay, what is good about that? There's not. So we need to really take a look at this and hopefully you learned something today. And by the way, the other thing I argued about in this Bible study is that they were trying to get, again, they were talking about Antifa, which is something that Donald Trump wants to say is a clear and present danger to the United States. Let me explain something to the people who actually need it. Antifa means anti-fascist. The United States used to be anti-fascist. We had World War II when we won against Germany. But now Antifa, anti-fascist, anti-Nazi, is supposed to be an enemy of the state, and the people who are, or they identify as Antifa, because it's not a real group, it's just a people who are against fascism. All of a sudden, we're the bad ones. It doesn't, how does that compute to the average person that Antifa is bad? Every American should be against fascism. So the fact that they're attacking Antifa will tell you everything you need to know about their white nationalism and how they want to move towards a Nazi fascist state. My name is Joe Peroni. This is the Rise Above Project. Please subscribe and tell a friend. Thank you.